spent in a miserable way.
U.S. News Democrats are urging Stacey Abrams to run for Senate. She's listening. Stacey Abrams' defeat was only a few weeks old when she arrived in New York in December to meet with campaign donors and political allies. At a reception in Ms. Abrams, attendees recalled, said she was undecided, except on one point she was determined to seek high office again. Since that meeting, Ms. Abrams' next political moment has arrived with startling speed. She is slated to, but Ms. Abrams' planned rebuttal to Mr. Trump is only one element of the role she is positioned to play in national politics. Democratic Party leaders are already imploring her to put her name back on the ballot, this time as a challenger to a Georgia Republican who is loyally aligned with Mr. Trump. Democrats believe Ms. Abrams remains undecided about running for the Senate, according to
Raindrop, drop top, top smoking, no cooking the hot pot. Fucking on your bitch, yeah, that. Looking up, open the park,